Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
So they could see the fire. It was like black smoke. They could hear from the windows. I saw that other cities got occupied, and then I might have lost a connection with them. So I just insisted for them to move while their road to the west was open.
I think it's very concrete, something in the heat of the moment, being right there, right in front of you. I think that will really help a lot of people.
What would work is for the government to actually engage those businesses and the workers that are impacted, have a conversation, look at how much they've lost, what kind of financial loss they suffered during the blockade.
Thanks for joining us. A family fleeing the Russian invasion of Ukraine has found refuge in Windsor, Essex. The Petrenko family arrived just days ago in LaSalle. While they are safe, the memories of the bombings and their escape stay with them. They still have hope that one day they'll be able to return.
At least they're safe. That's the main part. They're safe. Like, I can sleep at night now, and they can, I hope.
For Canadian resident Anastasia Petrenko, relief. Her mother Olga, father Volodymyr, and 87-year-old grandma Yekaterina are with her, safe from the war. But they are in shock. For Olga, it all feels like a movie.
Мы до сих пор это все чувствуем.
My mom said that she still can't believe that she left her house. For her, she's still there.
At first, the family didn't want to leave their city of Kryvyi Rih.
Это в первый же день войны.
The very first day of the war, February 24th, they could hear explosions because there were rockets, like missiles, sent by Russian troops to target a tank unit, a military base that is located 6 kilometers from their house.
From this house, a dream home that took the family years to build, one they did not wish to abandon, but Anastasia pushed them.
I was always on my phone checking the news because who knows, every minute something can happen and I lose all my family. That's all I have, my family. And I told them, like, you move because otherwise I can't sleep at night.
She convinced her family to pack up and go, so they grabbed a few bags and this hard drive full of memories. They drove to Moldova and into Romania. Then, thanks to Canada's program for Ukrainians fleeing, their daughter was able to fly them here last week.
Нелегко воспринимать.
For Yekaterina, a survivor of the Second World War who lived through the Soviet period, this has been unimaginable.
Даже не знаю, как назвать.
She said that she finally thought that all that dark times, all those dark times are over. Like, they survived so much. It's just like, now we have this.
Now in Canada, new challenges for the family. Learning the language, finding jobs, a home of their own, securing health care, especially for Yekaterina. There is some support from their local church, but they've also set up a crowdsourcing page to help them start their new lives here. The one good piece of news for Olga?
That we're together, that they're with me. She said that's very important.
Grandma Yekaterina says her people are proving strong. She has faith Russia will lose this war, and one day she can go back.
Я все-таки надеюсь.
She hopes. She really hopes.
The UN Refugee Agency says nearly 4 million people have fled the war in Ukraine, but it also says the number of those leaving has been declining. In the first 2 weeks after the Russian invasion, about 2.5 million people left the country. The second 2 weeks saw roughly half of that, and in the past 24 hours, only 45,000 people have left. There are many who want to leave but can't. It's believed 160,000 people remain trapped in the besieged city of Mariupol. Diplomatic efforts to end the war are ramping up again. A Russian delegation has arrived for talks in Turkey, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hinted at concessions, saying he is willing to consider military neutrality. Face-to-face talks are set to resume tomorrow in Istanbul. In local news now, there's a new, simple, but possibly life-saving sign that has been added to Windsor's waterfront by the Ambassador Bridge. Local mental health organizations push to get the message up, which they hope will help people in distress. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more, and a warning that this story references suicide.
Stop. "You are not alone." That's what a newly placed sign on the walkout by the Ambassador Bridge reads. It also includes a number to Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare's crisis hotline. The Canadian Mental Health Association looked to get the sign installed and say Windsor police identified the location as one of 3 along the river that are high risk for people in distress.
I got a little bit emotional when I saw it. I've sat at the river myself and contemplated, ending my life going into the river. And so seeing that sign and knowing that, it might stop even one person from going down that path was just really powerful.
The sign is currently the only visible form of crisis help along that portion of the Detroit River. It was put in place at the end of December.
And it can't hurt, it can only help. It's letting people know in that moment if they're struggling that there are supports available. It's also bringing suicide into the mainstream and having those conversations.
During the pandemic, reports have shown an increased need for mental health support. But early data from the Office of the Chief Coroner shows suicides declined in Windsor-Essex and the province in 2020. Province-wide, there were 124 fewer deaths by suicide in 2020 compared to 2019. And in Windsor-Essex, 32 people died by suicide in 2020 compared to 49 the year before. Yet the Canadian Mental Health Association warns that suicide statistics aren't always accurate, as some may not be reported and others might be classified as a drug overdose. And while this may be the first sign, Willis is hoping it's not the last. They are looking to add more to the Via Rail tracks and possibly by the LCBO or local bars.
At the end, people will say things like, think about your family, think about all the good that you can have in this life. And the point is you're at the end of your rope and you don't have anything left to give. And I think seeing that sign and saying you're not alone would just mean the world to people.
Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
And if you or someone you know is struggling, you can call the Canada Suicide Prevention Service at 1-833-456-4566, or you can text 45645. You can also call Hotel Dieu's crisis hotline as well at 519-973-4435. Hints today of financial relief for business owners whose bottom lines were impacted by the blockade at the Ambassador Bridge. While Windsor waits, small business owners in Ottawa have had supports for weeks. The CBC's Chris Ensing reports.
A sunny day can spread optimism.
Spring's going to come and our greenhouse is open. We're going to be very busy.
But Fred's is still dealing with the reality of the past. Customers avoided this area when those barriers were put up last month, following the Ambassador Bridge blockade. That same week, the federal government announced a $20 million grant program for small businesses in Ottawa, up to $10,000 of expenses covered if impacted by these protests. Shortly after, the province launched a program for those same businesses, offering grants up to $5,000. Spoiled food, that's covered under these grants, something that would help this market owner who says he's out close to $40,000.
How many tomatoes did I throw out? How many chicken breasts did I throw out in that period of time? It's hard to tell.
But his market is in Windsor, so he can't apply for the program. When they were announced, the Chamber of Commerce advocated for help here, sending a letter to the federal government. CBC News also asked if the province was working on a similar program for Windsor, but didn't get a response. Windsor West MP Lisa Gretzky has brought the issue to Queen's Park.
I think that's a clear example of a government that's only in it for themselves and the members that are elected, the Conservative members that are elected across the province, and that it takes a strong voice in our region to push back and to push for the investments.
Ottawa's getting help, but Windsor's not. And how does that make you feel?
Doesn't make me feel good. I mean, Windsor's been a big part, especially in the automotive industry, and we've helped Ontario quite a bit, and I think Ontario should help us.
Now, the Chamber says they're getting closer to something but can't share much. The federal government says today that support will come shortly, neither offering an explanation for why Ottawa already has support, while those on this end of the 401 are still waiting. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Windsor police are investigating a fatal hit and run. The victim, a cyclist. The man on the bike was struck on Wyandotte Street West near Crawford Avenue last Friday evening just before midnight. And according to police, after hitting the cyclist, the vehicle, a 2014 red Chevrolet Sonic, continued south on Jeanette Avenue. The victim was transported to hospital but died the next day. Officers were able to locate the car and they have arrested the driver. But the service is asking anyone with surveillance cameras near the scene to check their footage for possible evidence. The annual Sunshine List came out Friday, and it turns out Mayor Drew Dilks makes about $2,000 more than the mayor of Toronto. He's got a salary of just over $199,000 a year. Premier Doug Ford makes just $20,000 more to run the entire province. A local political watcher is surprised by that, but he doesn't think Dilks makes too much money. Instead, he's more concerned city councillors don't make enough.
Our talent pool, our recruiting pool for the office of the mayor is the city council. Historically, Windsor's mayors are elected as former city councillors. And if we are concerned about making sure that we have good compensation structure so that we're attracting the best possible candidates for mayor, I think that starts with making sure that the compensation for city council is attractive enough to attract the best possible candidates there as well.
City councillors make just over $46,000 a year. Even still, Dilks is not the highest paid official at the City of Windsor. The city clerk, the city solicitor, and the CEO of the Tunnel Corporation were among those who all made more. The Sunshine List discloses salaries of people employed in the public sector in Ontario who make $100,000 a year or more. A citizens committee looking into council compensation is expected to be released its report by this week's end. Ontario has a new childcare deal with the federal government, one that's expected to cut fees in half by the end of the year. Lisa Sheng has the details.
At a YMCA filled with families and dignitaries, Ontario became the last province to sign a deal with the federal government.
This is the next step we're taking to keep costs down for people in our province.
Parents, especially moms, shouldn't have to choose between family or a career.
The new daycare agreement means costs will drop by 25% as of April 1st. Parents will get rebates starting May 1st, retroactive to the beginning of April. Fees will be cut by 50% by December. Eventually, parents will pay an average of $10 a day in 2025. It's good timing for the Premier, who has his sights set on an election win in a couple of months.
You know, Ontario is unique when it came to childcare, and I'm very happy that the federal government saw that and was willing to sit down and take the time to get it right.
The deal isn't materially different than what was originally promised by the federal government. That's $10.2 billion over 5 years. Now, the extra $3 billion was secured for that 6th year, which was in line with what was in the federal budget.
It's shameful that the Ford government took so long and really delayed and delayed.
Since it seems like the only difference between Ontario and the other provinces is that it got Ottawa to promise another year of funding on paper, critics say it took too long.
The Ford government had no reason to delay. It doesn't seem that they got their magic better deal.
Even though parents agree this is long overdue. In Toronto, where daycare can cost upwards of $2,000 a month, they'll take what they can get.
My mom's debating retirement because of the cost of it, daycare, but this would definitely help a decision be made.
We've been debating childcare, but with the cost of it, like, you have to go get a full-time corporate career in order to afford it, and even then, like, I'd be pretty much making what I'm making now.
What do you think?
I think that's actually great. It's long overdue in my opinion, with all the other things that the province has been spending money on. This will definitely help out everyday parents.
The plan also includes creating 86,000 new childcare spaces in Ontario by 2026 and sets the new minimum wage for childcare workers of $18 an hour for staff and $20 an hour for supervisors. That will rise $1 an hour each year until it hits $25 an hour. Lisa Sheng, CBC News, Toronto.
A delegation of Indigenous leaders and residential school survivors from Canada is in Rome this week. Today, some of them finally got to meet with Pope Francis in person and tell their stories. It's a significant moment in a lot of ways, but one that many view as another much-needed step in the long journey toward reconciliation. The CBC's Juanita Taylor reports from the Vatican.
A busy sidewalk in Rome became a healing path for 8 Métis delegates and the people they represent, arriving to face the institution that caused them so much pain. Inside, a historic meeting with the Pope. They told him their stories of trauma rooted in residential schools and formally asked him to apologize for the church's role. Afterward, this residential school survivor said she didn't have closure yet, but
today was the most wonderful day I ever had all my life. To meet the gentle, kindest person, and even got a hug.
The Métis delegates also asked Pope Francis for access to pertinent church records and to make sure their people are included in an existing financial settlement that hasn't been fully paid.
This is just one step forward in our journey. Reconciliation did not begin today with a meeting with Pope Francis, and it doesn't end here either.
While the Métis were meeting with the Pope, an Inuit delegation of 7 was on its way to the Vatican to make their own appeal for justice, along with their own call for an official apology to be made in Canada. They also asked the Pope to personally intervene in bringing alleged abusers to justice, in particular a former priest now in France.
It is such a heartbreaking reality that some people who should have been brought to justice decades ago have not seen justice, and those who have been abused and those victims have sometimes died before they have seen justice.
On Friday, a public finale to this remarkable week with the Pope, all the delegates, their family, friends, and support teams. Juanita Taylor, CBC News, Rome.
And support is available for anyone affected by residential schools. You can access emotional and crisis referral services by calling the 24-hour crisis line. The number is there on your screen, 1-866-925-4419. And turning now to a pivotal victory for the Canadian men's soccer team. It has qualified for the World Cup. The first time the team has qualified for the tournament since 1985. The Canadian men beat the Jamaican team 4-0 before a sellout crowd of more than 29,000 fans at BMO Field in Toronto on Sunday. The World Cup will be held in Qatar in November, and we spoke to a Windsor super fan who was in the stands at yesterday's game in the city of Toronto.
Me being a Canadian, it's fantastic. And I'm super proud to be a Canadian and to see our Canadian men doing so well in soccer and bringing soccer to the forefront of Canada.
Exciting stuff for soccer fans. Let's take a live look outside. There are a little bit of clouds in the sky. You can see some blue, but we do have a chance of flurries tonight, and then tomorrow, sunshine, but we do have a chance of freezing rain in the evening. So Colette, she's going to be here after the break and will tell us what to expect for the week ahead. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. And Colette, I did take a peek at the forecast. It does not look pretty.
No, it's midweek, definitely. Well, even like tomorrow towards the evening hours, midweek, not looking pretty. That's true. And, you know, it really doesn't seem to matter what, you know, the calendar says. We know this. Even if we've had the vernal equinox, it's not about, it just matters how we feel. And I'll tell you right now, I feel cold. It is cold. Temperatures well below seasonal. And we're going to change that a little bit, but we've got some messy conditions to come along with it as well. So these are just your current readings, and you can see that much colder air towards London and Kitchener, and also, of course, the London region off the Lake Huron and those shores, seeing so many of the lake effect snow squalls you've been dealing with. Current wind chills make it feel like -15 in London, -10 in Sarnia, and -8 through Windsor. And these are some of the gusts. Although the sustained winds have eased into southwestern parts of the province, we're still seeing them quite strong there towards the east end of Lake Erie, west end of Lake Ontario. And so still driving some of those squalls, but those winds continue to kind of back off through the overnight. They'll change direction a little bit, and so areas that have been being hit hard going to get some relief, including some of the advisories having been dropped around the Barrie area. But special weather statement is in place for the next system that's going to be moving in. So that's the one I want to kind of walk you through. Now, in between, we do have a nice day setting up for tomorrow. A little warmer than today, quite a bit warmer actually, and a lot of sunshine to go around as well. But we'll walk you through the day until we get to the late afternoon, still looking good, still protected by that ridge. And then it's going to be into the late evening. We'll see some freezing rain, ice pellets coming through along with some wet flurries. Most of it at least happens from Windsor to Chatham-Kent through those overnight hours, and then it pushes eastward and we get into what will be rainfall as the temperature warms up. So it's still going to be messy in that sense, but the slickest conditions on the roads will be in the overnight hours Tuesday into Wednesday and early Wednesday morning. Feeling like -14 tonight into tomorrow morning, but a daytime high up to 4 degrees. You'll feel that in Leamington as well. And then Wednesday 12, so the temperatures definitely go up as the system comes through. What matters is that as it's arriving, Kat, we've got that warmer air aloft and cooler air at the surface, and that's why we get into those ice pellets, sleet, freezing rain.
Okay, thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we've got the Oscars and the smack heard around the world. Stay with us. This year's Oscar Awards show turned out to be a memorable one for the wrong reason. The Academy Awards, with all the glitter and glamour, got upstaged by a slap. Eli Glasner has more.
It was a night that was supposed to celebrate the best in film. It was a night that was supposed to increase sagging Oscar ratings. In the end, all derailed by the slap heard round the world. It began when Chris Rock was on stage and made a joke at the expense of Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada Pinkett Smith suffers from a condition called alopecia, which causes hair loss. After that joke, Will Smith stormed the stage. Oh, wow! Slapping Chris Rock, who tried to laugh it off as Smith returned to his seat, cursing loudly as the comedian. And later on, Will Smith returned to the stage, but this time as an Oscar winner, now winning for his role in King Richard, taking home an Oscar statue as Best Actor.
In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay.
Now, of course, there were many other winners at the 94th Annual Academy Awards, but the biggest of all, or at least in terms of number, may have been Dune, the remarkable science fiction epic directed by Denis Villeneuve. Again and again, we heard his name as the movie took home 6 Oscars in a variety of categories, but perhaps the most impressive win is the little film that could. I'm talking about Coda. Yes, I predicted it, but still a stunning result. This film about a deaf family and their daughter who wants to sing won in every single category it entered, including Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Picture, that's the big prize, but also making history with Troy Kotsur becoming the first male deaf actor to win an Oscar.
To my mom, my dad, and my brother Mark, they're not here today, but look at me now, I did it.
Remarkable that Kotsur had almost decided to pack it in. He was frustrated he wasn't getting enough parts as a deaf actor, but then he got the call to audition for Coda, and now he's an Oscar winner. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Los Angeles.
It was an eventful night, that is for sure. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night.